Hey guys, it's Clay here. Reading through the summaries from Friday and the discussion on those summaries over the weekend. I pulled up Habib's summary here of the article Mastering One Thing at a Time. And it's a good example that demonstrates both some of the good things and some of the areas that need to be revised as we develop our summaries. First of all, I generally like how Habib starts off this summary in the article. He writes in the article, Mastering One Thing at a Time by James Clear. James focuses on how individuals can become masters in different areas of life by laying down theories supported by research from renowned scientists. What I like about this beginning is that he's identifying the title and the author, and he's trying to get at the argument of the text, which I don't think he quite gets there in the first draft of this, but that's okay. What I recommend to a lot of people so far in my comments is that you need to use one of the templates here from the text, and it's always tricky to incorporate the author's name. Avoid saying by because that you get sort of caught up. What you want to do is make the author of the text that you're summarizing the subject of the sentence. So what I would do is I would write this in, just put in the title. Okay, so then I have the title here, Mastering One Thing at a Time. Then I have a comma. Then I have the author's name. R use that. So I use the author's name here, and I say R use that. And it's important that you use a word like R use. So Habib does something a little bit different than a lot of people will say discusses. Habib writes focuses. Those kinds of verbs are going to get you to the topic. But what you want to do is get at the argument of the text that you're summarizing. That's the most important thing. And I like Ali's comment here. She's right. Habib does have generally a strong summary in the middle, but the beginning needs a stronger focus for telling us what the argument is. And it's challenging usually when you first draft a summary because when you write that first sentence, you might not entirely understand the main argument. It's not until you get to the end. So if you do this, put the author as the subject, and use a verb like argues rather than focuses or discusses. You could say argues, you could say suggests that, you could say maintains, advocates for. There's a whole list of verbs in the chapter on summarizing that you can use, and I'll show those to you in class tomorrow. Next, I want to talk about the quoting that Habib does. So Habib does he kind of does a little bit of the hit and run quoting, or as I like to call it, the hit it and quit it. You don't want to do that. You want to introduce the quote. At a minimum, you want to say our author's last name, in this case, Clear. Clear writes. That's at a minimum do that. But ideally, you want to talk to us a little bit, give us that background information, before you get to the quote. And then after the quote, here it looks like this should look like, let's see if we can fix this. Well, it might not look right here because I'm making suggestions. Let me see if I can accept these. No, I can't. Okay, that's fine. So after the quote, you want after the quote at the end of the sentence with the quote here, we're gonna put it in parentheses. I don't know what the page number is, but you're gonna put in the page number in parentheses, just sort of like this here. And when you refer to the author, you don't want to refer to the first name, which a lot of students do, and Habib does it. And so this is a good example for us to look at. It's a very common error. Instead of saying James, you want to say the last name. In this case, Clear. Otherwise, what I really like about this summary is that Habib really is focusing on explaining the ideas in the text. He isn't really giving us a play-by-play, like first Clear talks about that, then Clear talks about this idea. Instead, Habib's trying to explain this idea of how through repetition and practice, there's this automaticity of action, I think is what this is talking about, mastering one thing at a time. But anyway, he gives us some details, talks about some examples, and relates those to the main argument. So anyway, most of the summaries I've seen can make the changes I've just illustrated with Habib's text. So please try to implement those. If you haven't read, and I do have a sense that a lot of people haven't read the assigned readings on summary and quoting. If you haven't read them, please read them. Though they do a good job of explaining what you should be doing in your writing. And I am looking for those kinds of moves. And my comments here highlight some of the most important things I think all of you should be doing. So anyway, let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll see you in class tomorrow. And thanks, Habib, for letting us share your draft, which is a good one. All right, bye-bye.